Have you ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly attract others while you keep struggling without results? The answer is closer than you think, and today I'll reveal exactly what you're doing wrong and how to change it immediately. What you'll learn in the next few minutes will completely transform how others perceive you, and most importantly, how they react to your presence. Stopping your reactive behaviors is the first step to becoming unreachable. If you want to be unreachable, there's something you need to understand right away. Every time you react impulsively, you give away your power. Most people live in a constant state of reaction. They're affected by any comment, any look, any situation that doesn't go as expected. And as long as you remain reactive, you'll be easy to manipulate, easy to predict, and above all, easy to affect. Neil Strauss explained it perfectly when he said, "Emotional control is the difference between an amateur and a master." Uncontrolled emotions are a reflection of your unresolved inner shadows. In other words, if something disturbs you, if something destabilizes you, it's not because it has power over you, but because inside you there's something you haven't yet mastered. And this is where the problem begins. Why do you react so much? Because you care too much about things you shouldn't. You care too much about others' opinions. You care too much about external recognition. You care too much about feeling accepted or approved. People who are truly unreachable have understood something that most never comprehend. Not everything deserves a reaction, and certainly not your energy. Have you noticed how you feel after reacting impulsively to someone who provoked you? That feeling of having lost control, of having given away your power. Every time you jump to defend yourself, every time you try to justify yourself, every time you respond with anger or frustration, you're making it clear that they can affect you, that they have control over you, however minimal. But what happens when you learn not to react? When someone insults you and you just look at them calmly, when someone tries to provoke you and your face doesn't change even a millimeter, when chaos happens around you and you remain at peace, that's when you become unreachable. If you really want people to seek you out, chase you, want you in their lives, you need to train yourself to stop reacting. Pause before responding. Most people respond without thinking. Someone attacks you, and immediately you get defensive. But when you train your mind to pause before reacting, you take control. Ask yourself, does this really deserve my energy? Almost always, the answer is no. Observe, but don't get involved. Not everything that happens needs your participation. Sometimes the best response is none at all. Learn to see situations as if you were a spectator watching a movie. Practice selective indifference. It's not about being emotionless, it's about consciously choosing what you give importance to. You can't prevent someone from trying to provoke you, but you can avoid falling into their game. Master your body language. Silence, calm, and a neutral expression are powerful weapons. When someone tries to knock you off center and you simply maintain your posture, without moving, without showing an obvious reaction, that's the moment when you realize they no longer have power over you. Try this exercise to strengthen your emotional control. For 1 week, whenever something triggers an impulsive reaction, wait 5 seconds before responding. Observe how your body reacts. Tension, discomfort, anxiety. Take it as a sign that there's still something you need to train. Make a list of the situations that most trigger you to react and analyze why. Each night, ask yourself, how many times today did I let something external affect me? Visualize the version of yourself who no longer falls into these traps. Make it your identity. When this happens, something begins to change within you. You start to see the world from another level. And best of all, when you learn to let go, this power multiplies even further. And that's what we'll talk about next. When you learn to let go, you become more powerful than you can imagine. There's a truth that few understand. Attachment is the greatest weakness a person can have. Everything that binds you, everything you find hard to let go of is exactly what keeps you vulnerable. People who are truly unreachable have mastered the art of letting go. But here's the problem. Most people don't know how to let go. We cling to people, situations, expectations, believing that if we let them go, we'll lose something important. We were taught that letting go is losing, that walking away is surrendering, but the reality is different. When you learn to let go, you free yourself. Neil Strauss said it clearly. Real freedom begins when you accept that you don't own anyone and no one owns you. He understood that people who can't let go live chained to their past, to their pain, and to what they can never control. And here's where the power lies. When you no longer fear losing, you become untouchable. Think about this for a moment. How many times have you stayed in a place where you no longer belonged? How many times have you maintained a draining relationship just because you were afraid to let go? How many times have you tried to change someone, hoping that someday they'd be the person you need? Here's the truth you need to understand today. Nothing you have to beg to stay is worth it. Nothing you have to force is truly yours. Anything that costs you peace is too expensive. The strongest people have learned to let go quickly. They don't stay where they're not valued. They don't insist where there's no longer respect. They don't fear losing because they know that what's meant for them will never need to be forced. But how do you let go without feeling like you're losing? You need to change your mindset about detachment. Neil Strauss claimed that what you resist persists. Letting go isn't losing. Letting go is accepting. Accepting that certain people were only meant to teach you something and not to stay. Accepting that some opportunities weren't for you. Accepting that some cycles need to close so you can move forward. Have you thought about what's really preventing you from letting go? The reason most people don't let go is fear. Fear of being alone, fear of making a mistake, fear of later regret. But here's the trick. When you face that fear, you realize it was never as big as you thought. Do a liberation exercise. Think of something you find hard to let go of today. It might be a relationship, a thought, a situation. Now ask yourself, what would happen if I simply stopped carrying this? Imagine how the lightness, peace, and tranquility would feel. That sensation of freedom is proof that letting go is the right thing to do. Repeat this phrase whenever you find it hard to let go. I trust that what's meant for me will come without effort, because that's the truth. Nothing that's truly meant for you will need to be desperately held on to. Have you noticed how much energy you spend trying to keep something that already wants to leave? Break the pattern of emotional attachment. The next time you feel the need to insist where you're not valued, do the opposite. Walk away. Observe what happens when you don't chase after what wants to leave. You'll discover that most times when you let go, the universe surprises you with something better. If you still doubt whether something or someone should remain in your life, do this. Imagine they're already gone. Observe how you feel about that idea. If you feel peace instead of anxiety, you already have your answer. Often the problem isn't the attachment itself, but the resistance to accepting the obvious. You can't cling to something that isn't destined to continue with you. When you master the art of letting go, your energy changes. You no longer live in a state of scarcity, but abundance. People perceive you differently because the confidence of someone who doesn't fear losing is magnetic. You have more control over your life because you stop clinging to what doesn't serve you. Letting go is the ultimate proof of self-confidence. Those who cannot let go remain slaves to fear, but there's something more powerful than letting go, the art of silence. And this is what differentiates the truly unreachable, which we'll discuss in the next point. Silence and mystery increase your value. People who are truly unreachable have mastered an art that few understand. Silence. In a world where everyone wants to be seen, heard, and validated, those who know how to stay quiet and reserved have an incomparable advantage. Not revealing too much, not reacting impulsively, and not giving unnecessary explanations makes you someone others can't figure out. And what they can't figure out intrigues them. Neil Strauss put it perfectly. Mystery creates curiosity, and curiosity creates attraction. The most powerful people are those who control their own narrative. They don't need to announce what they think, what they feel, or what they'll do. They simply act, observe, and let the results speak for themselves. But most people have no control over their mouth or their energy. They talk too much, over-explain, try to justify themselves, and every unnecessary word they say is a piece of information others can use against them. Think about this. When you're too accessible, predictable, and talkative, you lose appeal. Your value decreases because others feel they already know everything about you. There's no mystery, no depth, nothing that makes them want to discover more. And this applies to all areas of your life. In personal relationships, if you're always available and tell everything you think, you become a safe option, but not an interesting one. People take you for granted. At work, if you reveal too much about your plans and strategies, others can get ahead or take advantage of your information. In life generally, if you're always trying to explain your decisions, give reasons for everything you do or justify every step you take, others feel they have the right to give opinions about your life. The less you reveal, the more control you have. Silence protects you. Not everyone needs to know what you think. Not everyone deserves access to your life. When you start talking less and observing more, you begin to see the hidden game behind each conversation. Have you ever noticed how the most interesting people are those who reveal the least about themselves? When you stay silent, you become more unpredictable. Nobody knows what you're really thinking, and that gives you an advantage. Others respect you more because someone who doesn't explain themselves all the time projects confidence. You learn to detect people's energy. Listening more and talking less allows you to identify hidden intentions. How do you use mystery to your advantage? Don't reveal your plans until they're already in motion. Many people fail because they announce their moves before executing them. Don't notify, just do it. Don't explain your decisions. You don't have to justify yourself to anyone. If you've made a decision, stay firm and let the results speak for themselves. Control your body language. Mystery isn't just in what you say, but in how you behave. A neutral face, a confident gaze, and pauses before speaking generate more impact than 1,000 words. Learn to enjoy silence. Don't fill every moment with unnecessary words. Truly powerful people feel comfortable in silence because they know they don't need to prove anything. Make people wonder more about you. Don't tell everything immediately. Leave room for curiosity. Interest increases when there's something to discover. Be aware of the power of the pause. When someone asks you an uncomfortable question, don't answer immediately. Take a moment to think, to gauge the terrain. That pause makes others feel that what you're going to say has weight and value. Don't share your weaknesses with just anyone. People can use the information against you. Make sure those who have access to your vulnerability are people who truly deserve it. For a week, practice this. Respond with fewer words. Don't explain more than necessary. Be clear, concise, and direct. Observe more than you speak. Analyze how people act when you don't reveal all your information. Use pauses in your conversations. Take a breath before responding. Maintain control. Don't announce your plans before they're a reality. Let people be surprised by your actions, not by your words. When you control your information and don't reveal everything immediately, people start to see you differently. Some will feel uncomfortable because they can't read your intentions. Others will admire you because you project a confidence few have. And some will try to figure you out because the unknown is always more attractive than the predictable. Here's the key. When you become a mystery, power shifts in your favor. But there's something else that makes truly unreachable people different. They not only know when to be silent, they also know when to prioritize themselves above everything and everyone, and that's what we'll discuss next. When you prioritize yourself, power dynamics change in your favor. Most people live putting others first. They do everything to please, to fit in, to be accepted. And this is the mistake that makes them weak, because every time you put yourself last, you give someone else control over your life. Neil Strauss explained it clearly. Never make someone a priority when all you are to them is an option. Unreachable people have understood this. When you prioritize yourself, power shifts in your favor. The problem is that we've been taught to feel guilty for thinking about ourselves. Since childhood, we're told that being selfish is wrong, that we should give, that we should sacrifice. But there's a big difference between being selfish and having self-love. Selfishness is demanding without giving. Self-love is giving, but without allowing yourself to be drained. And here's the key. When you start prioritizing yourself, people perceive you differently. You stop being an easy option. You stop being someone they can use when it's convenient for them. You become someone with standards, and people respect those who have standards. Have you noticed that those who are always available are the least valued? Someone who doesn't prioritize themselves will always be an option, never a priority. If you constantly sacrifice your time, energy, and well-being for others without receiving the same in return, all you're doing is training people to give you less than you deserve. Think about this. If you're always available, you'll never be valued. If you always say yes, they'll assume you have no life of your own. If you don't respect yourself, no one else will. People who are truly unreachable have learned to set boundaries, not because they're cold or distant, but because they know their energy is valuable and they don't give it away to just anyone. How do you start prioritizing yourself without guilt? Learn to say no without explanations. You don't have to justify why you don't want to do something. A simple "no thank you" is enough. Stop giving without reciprocity. If you notice you're always the one who gives, who makes the effort, who puts in all the work, stop. Observe who's really there for you. Cut access to those who don't value you. Not everyone deserves a place in your life. If someone only appears when they need something, remove them from your circle. Invest time in yourself before others. Don't put anyone above your mental peace. If something drains you more than it contributes, it's not worth it. Get rid of the guilt for prioritizing yourself. You don't owe your time or energy to anyone. If someone gets upset because you put yourself first, that person was benefiting from you neglecting yourself. If you still doubt how prioritizing yourself can change your life, do this experiment for a week. Say no to something you really don't want to do without feeling guilty. Observe how people react when you stop being always available. Give yourself time alone without external interruptions. Reflect, how many times a day do you act out of obligation rather than real desire? You'll see something surprising happens. Those who truly value you will respect your space and boundaries. Those who only wanted you for convenience will walk away. And that's exactly what you want. When you start prioritizing yourself, people treat you differently. People who value you will stay and respect you even more. Those who were only there for convenience will disappear. And those who previously took you for granted will suddenly feel they're losing you. But here's the key. When you give yourself the value you deserve, the world gives it back to you. And there's an even higher level you must reach, the total transformation of your presence. It's not just about prioritizing yourself, but about radiating an energy that makes the world perceive you in a completely different way. And that's what we'll talk about next. When you reach this level, the world starts treating you differently. When a person becomes unreachable, their energy changes. They're no longer someone who begs, who chases, or who lets themselves be dragged by what others want. They're someone who knows their worth and isn't afraid to lose what doesn't suit them. People who have reached this level have developed a presence that can be felt. It's not something that's said, it's something that's perceived. When you enter a room, people can notice the difference. You don't need validation, you don't need approval, and because of that, suddenly, you start to receive more respect, admiration, and more opportunities. Neil Strauss expressed it this way: true attraction isn't about chasing, but becoming someone who naturally attracts others. People respect those who aren't afraid to lose anything. When you reach this level, the way others perceive you changes radically. Think about this. Have you ever known someone who doesn't need anything from anyone, and for some reason, everyone wants to be around that person? That's because independence is attractive. When you're a person who stands on their own, people stop taking you for granted. Those who previously ignored you start seeking you out. Opportunities arrive without you having to force them. Your presence becomes stronger without needing to say anything. Unreachable people don't have to prove anything. They don't seek to impress, they don't seek attention, but somehow they end up standing out. Why? Because self-confidence is magnetic. See the difference? Someone seeking approval talks too much, tries to be liked, wants to be well received. Someone who is unreachable is simply present, with a firm energy, without the need to prove anything. And here's the key point. When you reach this level, people start treating you as someone worth knowing. Reaching this level is one thing, maintaining it is another. Here are 3 keys to ensure you never go back to being someone others can handle or manipulate. Never put anyone above your peace. If someone makes you doubt your worth, that person doesn't deserve a place in your life. Don't explain or justify yourself. When you make a decision, stay firm. You don't have to convince anyone you're doing the right thing. Surround yourself with people who also have this mindset. If you surround yourself with insecure people who depend on validation, it's just a matter of time before they drag you back into that cycle. Have you noticed how some people enter a room and everyone wants their attention? When you're unreachable, social dynamics change in your favor. Being unreachable doesn't just mean people see you differently, but that the game changes completely. People who previously ignored you now seek you out. Those who thought they could manipulate you now feel uncomfortable in your presence. Opportunities begin to arrive without you looking for them, because people detect the energy of someone who knows their worth. If you really want to make sure you never lose this mindset, do the following for a week. Observe who tries to get your attention and ask yourself if they really deserve it. Every time you feel the need to explain or justify yourself, stop and keep silent. Eliminate any behavior that indicates desperation to be accepted. Each night, ask yourself, did I act today from security or from the need for validation? When you finally reach this point, the world responds differently. People admire you but don't fully understand why. People start treating you with more respect, even without you doing anything. You feel a freedom you didn't have before, because you no longer need anything from anyone. Here's the difference: when you're someone who no longer needs approval, attention, or validation, you automatically become someone people seek out. But to get here, you need to leave behind everything that once made you dependent on the outside world. And that's what makes the difference between those who remain trapped in others' expectations and those who truly become unreachable. If you've made it this far, there's something you already know. Becoming unreachable isn't an act of arrogance, but an act of personal power. It's understanding that no one has the right to control you, manipulate you, or make you feel less than what you are. It's taking command of your own life and establishing clear boundaries that no one can cross. People who reach this level no longer play by others' rules. They don't seek approval. They don't ask permission to be who they are. And that's why the world treats them differently. Because when you don't chase, you become the magnet. When you don't beg, you become the prize. When you don't explain yourself, you become a mystery. And mystery always attracts. What happens when you adopt this mindset? Your presence changes. You stop being someone who can be ignored or taken for granted. Relationships that didn't add value disappear. Only those who truly value your energy will stay. Opportunities come on their own because confidence is magnetic and people perceive it. You have peace of mind because you no longer exhaust yourself trying to fit in or please everyone. But this isn't something that happens overnight. It's a decision you must make every day. Every time you want to react impulsively, every time you feel the need to explain yourself, every time you doubt your worth, remember, you're the one who decides whether you remain accessible or rise above it all. Your challenge from today: comment below with the following declaration to reaffirm your commitment to this change. I choose to be unreachable for everything that doesn't add to my life. My energy is valuable, and I protect it. Let the world know you're no longer the same person who used to need validation or attention. You're someone who respects yourself, who prioritizes yourself, and who isn't afraid to let go of what doesn't serve you. And when you do this, when you truly live it, you'll see how the world begins to treat you the way you always deserve to be treated. Because being unreachable isn't about moving away from the world, it's about moving closer to your best version. If this video helped you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Like it and hit the bell for more content like this. Remember, your transformation begins the moment you decide that no one will control your energy anymore. See you in the next video.